All right, everybody. Welcome back to NFT Art Galaxy. This is part 3, going into AI even deeper with Algo Abstractions. And we do also have another AI artist extraordinaire with us too, who's going to be answering some Q&A at the end, Crypto Shane. So very excited. So Algo Abstractions, welcome back, man. Been a pleasure talking to
Good
you.
to be
I want to
here.
learn more. I've been poking around all the things that you've been teaching us, and my God, it's just amazing. So take it away.
Yeah. So we talked just to go back to our quick overview. So in our last 2 videos, we talked about the creation of still images with 4 different techniques that we talked about. And for a lot of people, I know this is the one that they've been waiting for, which is doing the animations. I know that since I started doing AI generated animations, that's really when people liked my stills, but that's really when things really started to take off, was when I started doing the animations. And people have been asking me from very early on, when I started publishing them, how exactly they work, how they're made. And so was hoping to kind of like look under the hood a little bit, and then get into just kind of a like free ranging discussion about the whole field, because it really is growing very, very fast.
All right, I love
So
it. I love it. Let's go.
yeah, let's do it. So in our last video, we talked about VQGAN and clip. So just briefly, if this is the first one that you're watching, I definitely recommend going back and watching the first 2. But essentially what VQGAN and clip does is it uses an adversarial neural network to generate images, but then uses another program called clip to try to match those images using the GAN to a language prompt. So essentially what it does is creates an image based on a textual input. And so I definitely recommend watching the last video for some really in-depth examples of that. But so that's all well and good. It creates a still image, but how can you create an animation with that? And so you can actually use those images to take the next step. So you can actually, I showed in the last video that you can use an initial image to generate another image. And so essentially what the way that you can make an animation with this is to use that first image that's generated with the VQGAN, and then making a second image that's based on the first image by modifying the style if you want, and then creating movement. So essentially, if you want your, and then you do that, of course, through hundreds and hundreds of frames. So a typical, say, if you wanted to do 24 frames per second, you can imagine how many times you have to do this to create a 10-second clip.
Oh, wow.
So essentially like, for example, so you generate the first image, and then let's say you want it to zoom in. So basically what you do is you tell the computer, you tell the program that, okay, generate me an image based on the same prompt or a different prompt, but zoom it in by 10 pixels. And so it'll do that. And then with an entirely new VQGAN image. And then it'll do the same thing again for the third frame and ad infinitum. So if you wanted to make a video with 5,000 frames, you could, and it would create an image that based on whatever you tell it to do. And what's cool about that is at a certain point, you zoom in to the point where the initial image is totally gone, and it's created an entirely new image from it.
Oh, wow.
So I just wanted to give a couple of examples of like style modifications as well as zoom. So Rich, this is the piece that you own. So this is my piece called So It Goes, which is based on Slaughterhouse-5 by Kurt Vonnegut. And basically in that book, there's a concept which has always really struggled with me. I'm embarrassed to say that I first read Slaughterhouse-5 when I was in 4th grade, and which means that I like really didn't understand it. But I read it again a few years later, and to this day, Vonnegut is one of my favorite authors and it's one of my favorite books ever. But there's this idea in Slaughterhouse-Five that all of time happens at the same time. Basically, that in any given moment, all of the past and future are happening now, and it's only like a human concept that we see it as linear rather than as happening all at once. And that's kind of been something that stuck with me. And so what I tried to do in this animation here was show a city sort of passing through its lifestyle. So at the beginning of the clip, it starts off as just like a city, a normal looking city, maybe in springtime. And then hold on, we'll wait for it to go through again. So now you start to see like the snowfall coming in, and then you almost see it in like a burnt out post-apocalyptic wasteland style, and then the overgrowth coming through it. And so basically, there's actually very minimal zoom here because I wanted to keep the image static mostly and actually just show the city like in the same place, but with at different points in time. And so basically the way it works is I told the AI to change the prompt at different points. So, you do the first 1,000 frames or whatnot, and then so the first 1,000 frames are, say, like just city in springtime. Obviously, we've talked about before, there are dozens and dozens more words than that in my typical prompt. But that's, the rudimentary example. And then after 1,000 frames, the prompt changes to, city in wintertime. And then the third one is like post-apocalyptic city. And then the fourth one is like, jungle overgrowing city or whatever it is.
That's amazing.
And you can actually change it. Here, the changes happen pretty much instantaneously, but you can program it such that those changes are very gradual. And so that's a tool that you can play with when you're programming it. With the AI animations, you do need some rudimentary coding knowledge because you need to be able to use the collab notebooks. So these are not something that you can make just from a like free online thing, but the tools are there and they are infinitely programmable. So you can really make anything that you want with these. So I'm actually going to show another example.
Yeah.
So this one, I was trying to show more just like the style change. And this one is a little bit more with both the motion change as well as a style change. So this is actually an image from my upcoming collection, the Pillars of Poetry collection, with the 10 pieces that are based on famous poems throughout history. And essentially what I did here was, in addition to my regular programming of prompts, I actually put in the prompts, I put in the words of the poem that it's based on. In this case, it's W.B. Yeats's The Second Coming, which has had like tons of books based on it. It's a really incredible poem, and if you haven't read it, I definitely recommend reading it. It's incredible. But basically, I programmed it such that the prompt changed with the words of the poem. So that in addition to all of those dozens of words that I was putting in as the prompt, I also was adding the actual words of the poem. And so with each stanza, you can see the shift in the style, but it's also, so the first words in the poem are turning and turning and the widening gyre. And so what I tried to do, and I hope that I did, was I tried to capture that, like a gyre is like a whirlpool. And so I tried to capture that like spinning, turning and turning in the image itself. And so you can program it to do whatever you want. So this one, the turning is actually static, but I have another one, I have a couple actually where the animations themselves like change depending on time. So you can program it so that like it starts off zooming in very slowly and then goes more quickly. And again, like I think I mentioned in the last video that like you need to do this, 100 times to produce like 10 good ones. With making a good animation, like making the motion get right, it's even harder, I would say, because it's all based on trigonometry. So you need to program it with like sines and cosines and all of that. And so it's really tough to make it look the way you want it. But the program really is infinitely programmable. And again, like thank you to Catherine Krausen and to Sports Racer 48, who made the notebook for the animation publicly available. It's really been a godsend, and you can make really incredible stuff with it. So
Yeah, you're doing it. You're definitely doing it. I mean, wow.
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a a work of love, but it definitely takes time. So I guess now that we've just kind of like very briefly just gone over what it is and how it's done, like in a very a 50,000 foot view. Just wanted to like whatever questions that we can answer for you, we would love to answer.
All right, all right. So Crypto Shane, you around?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well. So, man, I mean, my mind is just blown away from the past couple of videos and this thus far. I mean, it's just like Algo Abstractions was saying, you can kind of create anything. And I also have some pieces of your artwork too. So, what is your take on AI art and the creativity process and some of these tools that he showed us that you can kind of go on the web or kind of go and program it yourself? I mean, what approach do you take?
Yeah, I really like the analogy with the crayons. Analogy that I have is kind of similar to that. I often compare GAN art to photography, where anyone can take a photograph, but it really takes an artist to capture like a true artistic photo. It's kind of the same thing with the GAN art. So in photography, whether it's the composition, the lighting, the camera settings, the technique, or however, whatever you're doing to capture that photo, very similar is true with GAN art. When it's good, true GAN art, the person or the artist, it really varies on what code you're running, the parameters within the code, your keywords, the secret sauce. I like that term.
Mm-hmm.
Down to
So,
the rendering time. And
yeah, I think the secret sauce seems to be like your mind, I think, right? So like Algo Abstractions, he has his own approach. You're doing themes and poems and books and series, and I think you have other stuff too. So it's kind of, I guess it's just kind of the way your mind works. Is it, am I oversimplifying it? I mean, I think it's just kind of like a novelty if you just go onto one of those apps or whatever and you just put a couple words in, because you're not really serious about it. You're just letting the program software do it yourself. But it looks like you guys are kind of getting kind of into the weeds and testing things and trying things and changing things. Is that similar to you? So
yeah,
Algo Abstractions was saying like 1,000, he got 50 pieces out of almost over 1,000 pieces of work that he created. So that's
I'm the exact same way. I mean, I'd say 80% just goes right into the trash can. Once you find something good, you can start to tweak it, you start to build on it, you start to really just finesse what you're looking for. And then what I do is I bump up, and I'm sure he does as well. We bump up the resolution and then do the final render, which can take quite a lot of time. With me, I like to I'm relatively new to the AI scene. I've only been here for a couple months.
It's like 8 years though. Well, 2 months is like 8 years in the space, I think.
It is. And
the whole thing has existed for like 6 months basically. So
yeah. So I guess relatively, yeah.
I mean, you guys are cranking out some beautiful. I mean, it's just. I mean, you could tell the difference between your work and just things that are just generated, one time, if you will.
And I wanted to give a shout out to Neuro Treats. He's another great artist. He's the one who actually provided me the name of one of the codes he was using that he got from a guy on Twitter. He's got a Patreon account, Sports Racer 64. So I have to give him a shout out as well. But I kind of like to try to stay on top of the latest kind of technology. That's why I was really attracted to the animations. I actually did see some of Algo Abstractions work early on, and I was just fascinated with it. And I had just started to dabble into the animations myself, but his stuff is really next level. So it's inspiring.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. I mean, that's piece spoke to me when I saw it. I was like, oh my God, I gotta gobble this one up. This is definitely going to be a treasured one of the collection. So appreciate that, Algo Abstractions. I mean, I don't have like, I mean, my mind is just blown. I'm kind of all over. So I don't know if you guys have any similarities to what you're doing, differences. Is like I mean, obviously you're both artists, so you both have different style within this genre.
Yeah.
But
I really liked what you said about like really the limit is what's in your mind. And I think what's really cool about this space is so in that video that I made for the Zest Bloom exhibition, I think I talked about this a little bit, which is that it provides an avenue to create an image that you can see in your mind but have no other way of expressing, and actually just putting it out there onto a screen. And so the limit really is just what you can think of and the worlds you want to build and the images that you want to create. I would say, I mean, like you're saying, and I've talked about this a few times with a couple of the other people who do the stills, so Algsy and Hexlights and some of those guys, that it's really about having what differentiates the good from the bad is having a philosophy, is having a goal that you're trying to get to, rather than just like, oh, I'm going to throw some like you were saying, throw some random words in there and see what pops out. You know, I think that some of, you know, when you see some of these pieces popping up on AB2, they're just kind of like random conglomerations of things thrown together. But you can really tell when someone has like a broader vision. And I think that that's really what people are looking for, is that broader vision of, I'm trying to create, oh, so you're showing my new, this is my like my new Eridanis series. So this is the one I was talking about where
okay,
my goal was to create a like a sci-fi world essentially. And the question that I was trying to ask myself was, can I create a story and then use AI to tell that story and create the same images that I can see in my head, and put them down onto the screen so that other people can follow the story visually, as well as so what I tried to do was like create actually like kind of almost like a book. So actually, if you go to that link tree, yeah, so if you go to click on new Eridanis story, the third one,
yeah,
essentially, and this is literally just like the story told piece by piece.
Oh, that's cool.
And so each piece has like like almost, some of them are like a narrator, like told from a history book, and then others are just like almost like primary text, like people in the world who are talking. And so yeah, these pieces are AI generated, but they're coming from a place of vision. They're coming from a
right.
trying to build a world with purpose. And so I think that that's really the key in this space, is what differentiates the good artists from the people who are just tossing something up there, is trying to create something with a purpose.
Wow, no, this is amazing.
Those are awesome.
So I guess like, I mean, this just speaks for itself, but like, so for people who are serious about AI art, like what would be a good place to start? So, I mean, in my head, the way that I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, you're a great place to start. You're a great place to start, but like, go check out River Has Wings, Sports Racer 48, Neuro Treats, get on some spaces, and just kind of like, someone who doesn't know coding, it's like, where would you tell them to begin, I guess?
It's a good question. I think Night Cafe is a really good place to kind of experiment. And then really quickly, I would encourage anyone to start trying to learn the notebooks. There's so many available and they all have different little differences. But then there's the kind of the larger ones that seemingly are more popular. So I'd recommend just getting into that and just diving right in. I don't have any coding background at all. I'm just learning this all as I go. And
Okay.
I mean, if I can do it, I assure anyone can do it.
That's what I like to say. If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
This is going to be a little bit more difficult. I mean, it's definitely more involved than it appears on the surface. If you're going to want to have some qual, I mean, just looking at these pictures and the story, and
Yeah, I'm
it's
inspired by
just,
these stories.
I mean, this is great. I mean, you're like kind of want to own the whole collection. So you can't-
This one's not mine yet.
There's one person who's tried to. There's one guy who owns like I think like 12 out of the 50 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, those
Shout
are
out
good.
to Isaac if you're watching this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really cool.
Million algo.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, wow.
So yeah, I completely agree with Shane's on this one. I think that the easiest way to get involved in this is just to jump in. I think like I've said, it's a very giving community. So people are very willing to help out and to you know, if you don't quite get something or you can't figure, like I couldn't with one of the notebooks, I couldn't figure something out, and even the like very well known people in the community, like literally Sports Racer 48 is like in the Discord, like interacting with everyone on a daily basis, telling people what he's up to with like the trying to create the next gen of the program and helping people with their creations. And it's
So this is an AI Discord, I guess. Is that?
yeah, and if
Or
people
it's
want to know more about it, they should definitely contact us. And we're like I said, it's a very giving community, and we're not about gatekeeping, because I think really the key with all this is that, I mean, this is democratization of art at its finest, right? That like this is something that people can do and can make really cool stuff. You got to have the vision, and that I think is really the key. It's less about like this technique is incredibly difficult, and like yes, it takes a long time to figure out how to create something cool, but it's more about figuring out, okay, what is that cool thing that I want to create, and then going from there.
Man, I'm just looking at
Well,
this collection. I'm blown away.
it just keeps
Never
going too. I mean, this is like, so I mean, this is the collection that you said you made over 1,000 pieces to just have 50 pieces. So, wow.
Yeah, there's shameless plug. There's still a few left on my AB too.
All right, all right.
It's already released this one.
Yeah, this series is complete.
Okay.
So all 50 pieces are out and published. The story is up on my website, and so anyone who wants to check it out, the website's there. I try to keep my website relatively updated with new pieces. So once the poetry series drops tomorrow, I'll have that up there too.
Cool.
But I think it's important that people know that like while we might be a little, the only thing that we're protective about is our like specific prompts, I think, because that really is like that's your like you said, Rich, I really liked the way you put it, like those are your brush strokes. But like with how to use the programs, how to first get into this, everyone is really open. And so shoot me a DM, shoot Shane's a DM. Like we're all here to help you get into this. If you have the vision for what you want to make, we will help you make it.
All right. Well, I think we'll leave it there. I'm really excited that you, Algo Abstractions, have spent the past couple sessions here with us, and Crypto Shanes, thank you so much too for your insight as well. And then these guys are really great resources for you if you want to get involved. So any last words? I don't want to cut you off if you have anything else to say, because you've been preaching the wisdom. So I really appreciate it.
I'm learning so much just by listening to you. So thanks for doing this video. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like, got to pay homage to you. I mean, it really is impressive, very impressive. And I learned a lot these past 3 videos. So I would encourage everybody to go back, listen to them again, and utilize some of those resources, and then reach out again to Algo Abstractions and River Has Wings and Sports Racer 48, Neuro Treats, follow them, Crypto Shanes, and we'll go from there. And I'm sure we'll have you back on too when you have, you know, something else to drop. I know you have another project coming out, so love to have you back on. So really appreciate it.
And thank you for making this series. It's really awesome. I watch your videos all the time, and it's great that you give so many people a great onboarding into the space, as well as the platform to, you know, show their stuff. It's awesome.
All about learning and sharing. So, all right, NFT Art Galaxy fam, thank you so much for listening. We all love you, and continue watching these videos. Like them, share them, let everybody know about them, and thank you again. And until next time.